Hey everybody, this is Perch. Little viewer question, and maybe this will stir some memories for you. Question goes like this: Hey Perch, thank you for everything you do. Love your show. One thing that always puzzles me in the comment section to your videos, in which you invite people to come and share their opinions on things, why do people get so argumentative with you? They don't just list a different opinion. They want you to defend the opinion you have. They're trying to prove you wrong, but sorry, prove you right. Okay, this was worded weirdly. Prove you wrong is what you meant, and claim they are right. Why do people bother with this? Uh, I mean, the short answer to that, which is people like to be right. I mean, that's all there really is to it. Who doesn't like to be right? And one thing that has, I think, really kind of reinforced and underlined over the last, several years in particular. It's one of the negative things that social media brought us. By the way, you remember that movie Hackers? In that movie, they talked about, what was it, Hackers? There's this clip there where it talked about the great part of the internet and the fact that one of the most amazing things about it was that it would remove all barriers, all bigotry, all racism, all that kind of stuff. The internet was a big unifier. Can't see race if it's ones and zeros, right? It's amazing. Obviously, that didn't really pan out, but it is kind of funny and charming. That was Hackers. Yeah, it's comedy gold. Is what it is. But two things on this. Again, first of all, like I said, people like to be right, and if they hear an opinion that they don't agree with, I think it's a sign of maturity. It's a sign of being able to kind of accept this idea that your opinion is going to be different from someone else's opinion, and there's no real value in going in and trying to prove someone else's opinion wrong. You check yours, feel comfortable with your opinion, have it validated internally, and you kind of call it a day. It's okay. You don't need to have other people believe what you believe. But that's a lost art. But this isn't a new factor, and the internet allows people to do it quicker, and so therefore you get more arguments. I do love it's when people come in the comments, particularly for me, and they'll say things like, "Will you admit?" They use very like aggressive line, like, "Will you just acknowledge and admit, sir?" And it's like, whenever I see that stuff, I start reading it like like a 1920s carnival barker salesman, like, "Will you simply admit, sir, that this particular character is the wokest character of them all?" And that's always how I hear it in my head, and it makes the whole thing a little bit more enjoyable. But uh, what I find funny in all this, where comics are concerned, is when I see creators on talking and kind of bemoaning the idea of people complaining, as if they'd never encountered such complaints before 2 or 3 years ago, when these complaining people showed up on Twitter and started arguing with stuff. And what I find particularly comical about that is that if you've been in a comic store for the last 30 years or so, arguing about nonsensical things and holding your ground regardless of whether you're right or not, that's a hallmark of a comic shop. This I mean, if you've ever seen somebody engage in a multi-hour argument over, if Namor fought the Thing, who would win, with all the different nuance of like, well, they're fighting in underwater or on the land, and does the Thing have a mask on, and does he need to breathe underwater? If he's made of rock, does he actually have organs? Do he needs to breathe underwater? Anyway, I mean, just like people will die on that hill, any hill, over comics. This is part of that experience, is part of what people do. And that really hasn't changed. And so when I see people going, "I don't understand how people can argue," it's like, but you came from a comic shop. Like in your past, it's the reason why you're writing comics now, is because a bunch of you got together and you helped get each other jobs. You worked in a comic shop. You know what this is like. Or I don't know. Maybe you're in the most unfun comic shop in the world. That could be, but you can't sit there and say I've never seen such arguments before. I mean, come on, really? Come on. That's kind of what makes comic books fun in a lot of cases. the parts where it's not fun is where it just like goes over the top. And I think you probably, I'm guessing, anybody listening to this who's been in a comic shop for any length of time or gone to a con and seen one of these arguments go down, there are these moments where somebody takes it too far. And like the argument is meant to be heated. And there's always this one jackass in the argument who just talks louder than everybody else. You know, the thing doesn't wear pants, and that's why he could, you know, just whatever. Just gets very, very aggressive with the talk. And I mean, there's always that person. But in these arguments, you probably have seen it hit the point where like it suddenly either flips to personal, or it goes from being a heated, spirited, you know, argument, but still, you know, in theory, fun, and then it flips into actually somebody is gonna start, you know, throwing punches here in a minute if this keeps going, and you know that's obviously not healthy. It's not good. But once you've seen several of those, you start to recognize the signs, and you start to just like bail out. I go back to what I said earlier. I mean, I'm very comfortable with having a different opinion from other people, and maybe it's just being a retailer, you know, and which I think is the true customer service. I mean, I still, by the way, I disagree with the different groups who like to label themselves like we're customer friendly. No, we're customer friendly, and you know, if you really are customer friendly, you learn that you're going to service a lot of people who make you insane. And one thing I notice is the customer friendly groups. Like I was a bunch of Marvel writers who call themselves customer friendly. It's like, yeah, except every now and then, if you don't like the customer, you bark at them, and then you'll say, well, that person wasn't really a customer. It's like, okay, fine, but if you're a retailer, everybody who walks in the door is a customer. You don't know if that person is right, left, angry, sad. You're going to spend $100, going to spend $1, going to waste time just browsing around and leave. You have no idea, so you have to treat everyone like a customer, and I think that's true customer friendly. But if you're going to do well at that, what you very quickly learn is that your opinion on things just doesn't really matter to those people coming in. What matters is, are they going to spend money or not? It'd be like getting in an argument, and this is how I view a lot of stuff with comics when people get into, you know, their various opinions on it. It's like, imagine getting into an argument with somebody because you like a cheeseburger and you said that's my favorite food, and the other person goes, well, my favorite food is spaghetti, and you're like, no, it is not. No, your favorite food is a hamburger. You're gonna love it just like I do. If you don't love, I'll let you have the cheese off if you have to, but you're going to love a cheeseburger or hamburger variant. That's what you're gonna love. I don't care if your favorite food is spaghetti. You're gonna love a hamburger. How insane would that sound? Right? That would sound insane. And yet, a lot of the comic discussions, a lot of the debates that go on, have that same kind of tone to it. It's not just you know, hey, I think your opinion's dumb, but I'm, you know, you go crazy, go nuts with it, but I'm going to keep mine. It's no, you can't have your opinion. You can't keep thinking that way. You have to think the other way. You have to like what I like. It's bizarre. And it's particularly bizarre when it's used as a marketing approach. Again, this is kind of what's going on with New Mutants right now, where the advertising and marketing behind it is like, you have to like this book. You have to. It is the best book. If you're not saying it's the best book, then you clearly are lying and you actually do love it, but you want to hate on it because of the writer and you're, I don't know, a bigot or whatever you happen to be, but you don't have a choice. You have to like it. How bizarre is that? It is like hamburger versus spaghetti. It's like, you know, what if you have no idea who's writing this book, which, by the way, is a safe assumption. If you go into a comic shop and you're buying comics, I had this experience with a shop I went in and visited. I said, oh, you know, how does Vita sell? And they're like, I don't know who that is. It's like, oh, one of the writers for the book. Oh, okay. Yeah, nobody ever comes in and asks for Vita, but they'll buy New Mutants. It's like, yeah, that's you know, no shade to anyone. That is typically how it works, unless you get to a certain very high profile level. But I mean, I'll be honest, I was selling comics actively when Tom King was on Batman, and Tom King wasn't a household name. People kind of knew Tom King, but it wasn't like it wasn't like people were clamoring for Tom King. It was I want Batman. That's more or less how it works. There's very few people who get into that space where they can just kind of not demand, but people go looking for them. So uh, it's all. I mean, it's all silly. All of this is silly. I think that if you're going to argue with somebody, hopefully just state your point and run with it. But think to yourself before you get into this argument: are you arguing because you want to put your opinion out there, or are you arguing because you want the other person to change their mind? Number one makes a whole lot of sense. Number two, seems kind of crazy. It really does. Like, what do you care? Particularly the internet, where you're not going to meet these people you're arguing with, probably ever. And so, seeing so much energy get put into you need to like a hamburger instead of spaghetti. What is the point? You know. Again, granted, this is the kind of stuff that would go on a comic shop. These are the silly debates, but at the very least, you talk to any retailer, you talk to any group of people, even the people having the argument, even they would define this stuff as a silly debate. Superman versus the Hulk, the Thing versus Namor, whatever. I mean, they're silly little contests that people debate out, but they recognize that even if they're arguing extremely earnestly and passionately, they are not going to the wall. I mean, nobody there is thinking they're writing the new like comic book Declaration of Independence. They understand the trivial nature of what they're doing. So why is it so hard online, where stuff's still trivial? It's weird. I would love to. I would love to sit down with somebody who does come on, like people who come on the boards here for this channel in the comment section and go, "You, sir, must admit and acknowledge." Like, why? Why is this important to you? Seriously, I think the people who argue very effectively in message boards, comment sections, other places, are the people who do not try and deny, get people to deny what they think, but instead come in with I'm going to make my case. I'm going to make it really, really strong, and I'm going to win because people are going to see that I'm taking my case seriously and I'm laying it out in a way that you can trust and believe in, as opposed to the person who comes in and goes, "Oh, you guys are dumb. You're dumb, buddy." Well, now I've gone into a whole different thing. Anyway, thanks for the question. Simple. But I guess I'd leave it with this. Inherently, debating over silly stuff is comic legacy. That is what people do, and there's nothing wrong with it. It can be fun if you don't take it too seriously. Why so serious? Thanks for listening.